Hey everybody, it's Pastor Siri. I'm a Lutheran pastor and a spiritual seeker. And this week, on week 3 of the Curriculum of Love, we're talking about connecting with God. So take a listen. Now, once again, I'm speaking of the God of your understanding. So feel free to broaden that term to what resonates with you. In the first couple of weeks, I talked about what gets in the way of us being able to connect with God. And now I'm talking about sort of the techniques in which you might actually connect with God and what that feels like. So people do this in many ways. So you can actually connect with God through simple meditation. Automatic writing is great for me. But people have also done nature walking and being in nature somehow, meditation walking. They've done music. Music is a great way for me to feel connected with God. Listening to music, even drumming, dancing. There are many ways in which you can get in sort of a flow. And in that process, you can feel connected with God. I've even had moments where I'm reading books where I feel really connected, or writing, where it's just like this movement's happening and I'm connecting. There's an interesting connection between connecting with your highest and truest self and connecting with God. Because my understanding is your highest and truest self already has that umbilical cord connection to God. And so oftentimes when we're in our more egoic selves, our other parts, we feel disconnected. We feel alone and we're kind of getting stuck in our own little mind bit. But when we find the practices that get us into our true self, we actually can also feel closer to God, which is really cool. So it's a really important thing. We're going to be talking about that in a few weeks, to find those things that get you in that space where you feel the most like yourself. You feel abundant and easy to laugh and creative and relaxed and energized. You know, those don't have to be a dichotomy. So connecting with God can be very many different ways. And of course, I do not want to neglect the fact that some people will use, in a spiritual and therapeutic sense, some plant medicine, things that will help to open the door to really connect and experience the living God in the way that they come to experience. And I definitely know that's out there, and I don't want to neglect it because it can be extremely spiritually powerful for people to have that living experience and connecting with the other, the sacred, the divine in that way. And I think that's, to me, what any of these practices are, is it opens you up that there is more than this life. The way many of us can observe the world with everything that's concrete, everything that's like visible, it can be really easy to say that's all there is. And especially when the world is so frantic and chaotic and loud, you're like, is there anything else? Like, I'm not seeing it. So the practices that actually calm you down and bring you into that elevated state, that flow state, those are the ones that are actually going to let you connect to what is more than. And to me, that's really powerful. I love the more than. I love that idea because honestly, this world, it's a beautiful world, but it can be tough. It can be difficult. And I long to experience the sense that there is something way bigger than beyond what my eyes can see. Another thing about getting into these moments where you feel that connection is it feels good. There's a word for this in Sanskrit, in yoga, and it's called ananda, that bliss of being united with God. And it's a very high elevated consciousness. And in the few times I've gotten glimpses and experiences of this, and I have, it truly is wonderful. You're so happy to just be. Your brain's not thinking about the next thing. You're not like, I'm bored. There's no boredom. You're just in being and enjoying being alive. There's so much just joy and relaxation and gladness in it. to me, I think a lot of spiritual practices, when they get people in touch with God, is it can feel so good. It's a release from the ego, again, the ego games. And you get to this place of being that I think is really what we're supposed to be, like how things can be and should be. But what's gotten in the way is a lot of our fear, shame, guilt, judgment, and the spinning of our mind. And so finding ways to get away from that, finding ways to get into our true self where we're connected with God is, it's good. It feels good. But I'm going to admit, it's not something that I can do on demand. It's not something that I just sit down and easily can do. So there's lots of different spiritual practices. I personally can get overwhelmed by the amount of possible spiritual practices. And so it can be good to just commit to one for a while and to see how that works, whether it's automatic writing or sitting and meditating to a guided meditation or to music or dancing, whatever it is, committing to that and then just seeing how that works, because you're putting yourself in a situation and you're carving out time in which things can happen. Not a perfect metaphor, but if any of you are people who exercise, you run, or you go to the gym, you're going to know that not every day is a winner. You're going to go and one day, completely unexpected, you're going to have this amazing workout. You feel strong. You have so much energy. You're moving quickly. You're just like, yes. And then a couple days later, you don't have a lot of energy. You do the workout, but maybe you don't do all the sets. You're just like, today's not the day. There's nothing wrong with you, and you can't always predict and plan for those days. There can be a lot of factors that go into that. And the same thing is true with connection with God. But you're never going to have an awesome day at the gym if you never go to the gym. You're never going to know what that feels like to honestly have one of these amazing days where you're like, I'm Wonder Woman, I can do anything. That feels good. It's amazing to know what your body's capable of and to see you getting stronger. Like, I love that experience. In the same way, if we don't have regular spiritual practices, we're never going to put ourselves in a position where we might get that. All of the different energetic things align and boom, we have this amazing day. And then all of a sudden you feel a glimpse of what's really real, what's really possible. And to me, it gives me a lot of hope knowing that there have been spiritual leaders of all different religions and spiritual backgrounds who live in that state more or less. My understanding is Jesus probably lived in that state and was able to return to that state much more quickly. Maybe that's why he went to the mountains to pray, is because he wanted to get back to that oneness, to that bliss sense, to recalibrate himself so that he could go back out and do ministry with people. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are spiritually advanced who have that capability of just getting back into that aligned place. And there's also really beautiful stories of people who go visit gurus in India and so forth. And they're just sitting there meditating. They're in that bliss state. And they really don't want to do anything else. But people will bug them and be like, hey, can you help me? Can you guide me? Can you answer some questions? And they're like, okay, fine. And you think, how could they be sitting there day after day after day, week after week, month after month, hours upon hours of just sitting there? It is not torture for them. It's not torture for them. They're in a flow state. They're in that wonderful samadhi state that feels good to just be as you are. And I think that really changes your life. I think having more and more and more of those experiences allows you to see life differently and embody more of the fullness of yourself. So if you're wondering, okay, why should I do that? Those are some reasons. How do I do it? I also gave you some reasons. Find what works for you. So I'm curious, and I want to ask right in the comments below, what are some spiritual practices that you've tried? Do they work? What has actually given you an experience of a connection to the divine? And what was that like for you? I would like to know, so let me know. And next week we'll talk more. Okay, bye-bye.